Hello and welcome back to live coverage of the Pioneer $2,000 Open featuring 2 slots to the Apex Invitational later this year, as well as 1 slot to the Regional Championship later this year at DreamHack Atlanta. I'm Tandy, joined by Ross Merriam. Say hi, Ross.
Hi, Ross.
And we have the top 8 coming for you shortly. It's been a really fun tournament so far. One thing I want to note before we move into the elimination rounds is that this is 8 different decks. Ross, why don't you give us a rundown of what we're going to be watching and what you think is going to happen?
Okay, so I'll start on the right half of our bracket here that I have in front of me. These are going to be our backup feature matches. We've got the 2-7 matchup, Jason Taylor, the 2 seed on 4-color auras. Really just Celestia auras, 4-color because it has the 2 tutor targets, Highest Growth Form and Hammerhand. Against Joe Watson, the 7 seed on Gearhulk Creativity. Interesting matchup because this is not the creativity deck that goes over the top and combos you, and I think that's a problem because they don't really have a lot of good ways to interact with the Auras game plan. Now, if the Auras deck stumbles, creativity can go over the top quickly and maybe steal a game, but I definitely like Auras here on the play.
Yeah, the Auras deck, it's one of those decks that if your opponent is really interactive, you can have one side of your draws featuring Glade, Culver, Scout, and if they are not very interactive, you can have the other side of your draws with Light Paws, right? And just be really explosive. So I think it'll just be dependent on the draws of the Gearhulk Creativity deck and how it lines up against the threats that the Auras deck draws and plays.
Yeah, next up on that half of the bracket, we have our 3 seed Dylan Ham on Rakdos Midrange against the 6 seed Ruben Wild on Grixis Archfiend combo. Interesting sort of pseudo mirror. That said, Ruben is more blue heavy than some of these builds, not just a Rakdos deck splashing alteration. Has dig through time, which could be very important in the mid-range mirror when you want really juicy targets to top deck when both players are low on resources. That said, I think the combo is a bit of a liability in this heavy disruption matchup, so I'm going to go with Dylan Ham.
Yeah, I like the Archfiend combo deck as essentially a win condition in your normal Rakdos style deck against opponents who can invalidate your ground creatures. I think Sheoldred allows you to kind of like break serve in a lot of those spots, but the Archfiend with the Metamorphic Alteration just lets you steal games that you would otherwise not be able to win.
Yeah, that's not what you're trying to do in this mid-range mirror. You're trying to interact, draw a bunch of cards, and win this long game.
Yeah.
If they just interact with your combo, you're going to have some poopy, alterations left, or they're going to get a 2-for-1. It's just not going to go well for you.
All right, and what is our off-camera match, just so people know about that one too?
Yeah, so the other half of our bracket, we got the 4-5 matchup, 4 seed Cody Vanderveer on Abzan Greasefang against the 5 seed Guy Johnson on Mono Black mid-range. We saw him a couple times during the Swiss. He's playing a very heavy discard package with those Mind Rots and the Davriel. Also has 4 copies of Liliana the Veil and a bunch of edicts.
Sheoldred's Edict and Liliana's Triumph.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to match up very well against the Greasefang deck. So okay. I like Vanderveer there. Greasefang's historically been good in those mid-range matchups. It's difficult to interact with the powerful vehicles, especially Azeka's Chariot. And those discards, unless it's point discard like Thoughtseize, isn't really going to help you. They're just going to discard their Parhelions and reanimate it.
Right. And there's 4 copies of Liliana the Veil that it's like, do you play it and tick up?
Yeah.
If you tick up, you might just let him discard the Parhelion and kill you next turn. Yeah. So
usually, if your opponent also plays Liliana the Veil, it's not a very good card in the matchup.
Yeah. All right, and then lastly, we're going to be talking about our primary feature match for this round. Ross, what's it going to be?
We have our #1 overall seed. We have not seen him play today, but he's been tearing through the Swiss.
We got like a snapshot of him casting a lethal Wizard's Lightning in the game 3 when we swapped over for 1 second.
Yeah, good point. We saw a brief glimpse of him, so now we're going to see a little more. That's Evan Smith on Mono Red Wizards, bringing back a deck that was very popular in Pioneer a couple of years ago, has fallen out of favor in recent times, but seems to be doing well for Evan Smith so far. He's going to be playing against Josh Milliken on Rakdos Sacrifice. Who do you like in this matchup? I could see this one going either way.
Well, normally I would say that Rakdos Sac is just going to be favored against any deck that has a bunch of creatures, especially ones with 1 toughness. But this Mono Red Wizard deck just has multiple ways to kill Mayhem Devil and can kind of just ignore Cat Oven by like swarming and throwing burn spells at the face. I actually think the Mono Red Wizard deck on the play is a bit favored, but I'll be curious to see who wins. And I think traditionally Red Black Sac good in these matchups, but I love the Wizard deck, so I'm going to root for it.
Yeah, this one I think is our closest matchup. It's one of the reasons we're watching it. I think it's a pick'em.
Yeah. All right. Well, just so y'all know, all the deck lists will be available after the event is over. This is a closed deck list tournament. All those can be found on apexgaming.gg and will be posted later today. But the players are in the feature match area and ready to go. So let's head on down there and see who takes it down between this mono red wizard deck and the Rakdos sack deck. Evan Smith going to be on the mono red deck. Josh Milken going to be on the Rakdos sack deck. Josh on your left, Evan on your right with the play. Here's Sokinzon. This means maybe no other land unless maybe a Mutavault's hanging out in there. But here's Kumano, faces Cognizant.
Now, keep in mind, Milliken is playing a bit different than stock Rakdos Sacrifice list. Actually has 0 copies of Fable of the Mirror Breaker, but does have 2 copies of Liliana the Veil. That could be good for running down Smith's resources when he's very much a burn deck. And 2 main deck copies of Ob Nixilis Captive Kingpin, a recent addition to the deck that can really help you turn the corner and close games quickly.
Well, not the best start from Evan Smith. Has the Kumano face Cognizant, goes for the upkeep play with Fire to look for land number 2, doesn't find it, scries to the bottom and bricks. Here's the second piece of the Cat Oven combo, Cauldron Familiar, and now Kumano faces Cognizant. I'm going to flip into the 2/2 that whenever any of your stuff deals damage to an opposing creature, it will get exiled. But if you block and sack before damage, as we're doing with the Cat Oven, we are just preventing that from being a factor.
Yeah. Typically, these Wizards decks have been Boros because they're burn heavy. They like to splash for Boros Charm. This one going straight mono red, so he gets to play things like Ramnap Ruins and Den of the Bugbear, and fills out his curve with things like Bone Crusher Giant, Kumano, so a little more creature heavy than the old Boros Wizards decks used to be.
All right, well, this is the nightmare scenario for Evan Smith. Not only is he stuck on lands, but is also in the Abyss thanks to the Mayhem Devil Cat Oven combo. So 2 damage to his creatures essentially every single turn, and it's going to be hard to keep up. Even though the Kumano normally does some good exiling, it doesn't really do much against Cat Oven because it never really takes any damage.
Yeah, this is a dream start for Joshua Milliken, having Cat Oven plus Mayhem Devil on the first 3 turns of the game against a creature strategy, and I think this game is going to end in a hurry with Evan Smith still stuck on 1 land.
All right, so we're going to do 1 iteration of Cat Oven that's going to deal 2 damage with Mayhem Devil. And we're going to go ahead and bring it back during the end step just to get a little brain and drain. This means that Josh Milken might get a little aggressive here with the spell removal spell. Could like kill to get to Lava Runner and get in a point with the Cauldron Familiar, which could shrink the clock a little bit. Oh, there it is. Claim the Firstborn. And now it doesn't, it has haste from the claim, not itself, which is funny. But we're going to shove in here for quite a bit and then probably just sack that, get to Lava Runner to something. And there's Village Rites.
So 6 damage plus 1 now from Village Rites sacrificing. Yeah, that drops Evan Smith to 9. Only 2 lands picked up for Milliken, but he doesn't need much else to win this game.
All right, there's a second Cauldron Familiar. Not the best when you already have Cat Oven, but at this point, it's just window dressing. And finally get the second land. We're going to flip the Kumano. Let's see if Evan Smith has any way to claw back into the game, but it feels fleeting.
Yeah, now with no Wizards in play, that Wizard's Lightning is still uncastable. So wise of Milliken to get rid of the Gitu Lava Runner before Evan Smith untapped could have actually dealt with this Mayhem Devil.
Yeah, you keep a lot of 1-land hands in decks featuring, aggressive red creatures. It's something that's just kind of the way that the format is centered, and there's not a whole lot you can do about it. You just kind of have to get lucky sometimes and draw your second land. Otherwise, you just end up mulliganing like far too much.
Yeah. Josh Milliken not even bothering to kill more creatures, just going to go upstairs and finish off Evan Smith. But now it turns on a Skewer.
All right, but the Skewer is going to go after the Mayhem Devil and deal damage with the Ramnap Ruin. So Mayhem Devil going to send Evan Smith all the way down to 4. It is exiled from the Kumano, and now we're going to go back. And this is a very close to lethal, if not lethal, attack, especially with that Den of the Bugbear.
Yeah, just needed an untapped land. Otherwise, only had 3. And Den will make it lethal right now.
All right, well, a very quick and painful game number 1, and Joshua Milken takes down that first one with Rakdos Sacrifice. Ross is going to be pulling up the sideboards here and give you his expert analysis of what these players might do. Let's start with the mono red side of things. Ross, how's it looking?
Evan Smith's sideboard, I see 4 Rending Volley, 2 Roast, 1 Roiling Vortex, 1 Red Cap Melee, 1 Obliterating Bolt, 1 Karizev's Expertise, 1 Hazaret the Fervent, 1 Goblin Chain Whirler, 1 End of the Festivities, 1 Chandra Torch of Defiance, and 1 burning hands. Not a ton I like here. The Red Cat Melee gives you another answer to Mayhem Devil, as does the Obliterating Bolt, but they're weak cards overall in the matchup. A card like Hazaret the Fervent could be good. Very difficult for the Rakdos deck to kill. They can't claim it. That said, there are some bigger threat and effects usually in those Rakdos sideboards, but those would normally not come in a matchup like this. So maybe the one Hazaret could catch your opponent by surprise. Maybe you want to get a little grindier with Chandra Torch of Defiance. Maybe you want to go big with like Goblin Chain Whirler, but neither particularly good in this matchup. So not a lot to help out Evan here when he's down a game in this matchup.
I think if Evan had just naturally drawn, or like had 2 lands in the opener, or naturally drawn a land on turn number 2, the game would have been significantly different. If he's able to play, you know, 3 creatures in the first 2 turns, the Cat Oven's defensive measure is not really that big of a deal, and he would have been able to turn on Wizard's Lightning and skewer the critics to take out the Mayhem Devil like immediately, even at the cost of like 1 creature in there. Obviously, the Mana Stumble a big deal and something you just have to deal with when it comes to playing mono red aggressive decks. But I think if you just kind of stay the course, as long as you have an answer to Mayhem Devil, you might be able to squeak it out.
Yeah, and a Milliken sideboard, I see 2 Thoughtseize to complement the 2 in the main, 1 Go for the Throat, 1 Dreadbore, 1 Go Blank, 2 Kolaghan's Command, a 3rd Liliana of the Veil, 2 Karizev's Expertise, 4 Leyline of the Void, and the 1 Liliana Waker of the Dead that we saw put in some work against creativity in the Swiss. Once again, not a lot that I really like here. Notably, you know, all these double colored cards mean that there's no Gigantha Companion, but maybe you want to go heavy discard against the burn plan, but Evan's list is much more creature heavy than this deck used to be, so I wouldn't treat him like a straight burn deck.
No, and the pressure point for that deck is the creatures. If you're able to kill the creatures, you're in business. And if you can't kill the creatures, they just overwhelm you very quickly. And then if you're slow on killing the creatures, they still dealt 8 to 10 damage, and then a couple Scare the Critics and Wizard's Lightning finish you off.
So maybe he wants the 2-mana removal to treat Evan more like a creature deck. So it sort of depends on how Josh wants to approach the matchup and what he thinks the most important thing for him to target, most important aspect of Evan's deck to target is.
All right, well, players are looking at their opening hand. Evan Smith is going to be on the play here for game number 2, down 1. His hand looks like it has 1 or 0 lands. You have to imagine.
I think it's 0.
That one's got to be going back, huh?
There is one Spikefield Hazard in the deck that could be a land, but and is that the last card? Is he keeping the old Spikefield Cave, no second land?
I guess so. Josh Milken's going to mulligan here, and going to be a slow start for Evan Smith. You have to imagine what the games would look like if he had just taken a mulligan last game, and this game, same thing, especially if he stumbles again and loses because of it.
Yeah, 2 very risky 7s here for Evan Smith. Game 1, it did not work out for him at all. We'll see if his fortunes can change here in game 2, because otherwise his tournament will meet a swift end after a very impressive run through the Swiss 5-0-1 record you see at the top of your screen there. He was one of our 3-4-0 players, and he was the unlucky one to get paired down.
Yep.
As we noted yesterday, there was one player that happened to, if you happen to get paired down and win, now you're the 1 seed and you're in even better shape. So there is a reward to getting unlucky there and being the person that has to play round 5 instead of double drawing your way to the top 8.
All right, well, Milliken taking a look at the 6.
That's an Obnix list going to the bottom. Love putting the expensive cards there.
Yep. All right, here is the Spikefield Hazard, the lone land from Evan Smith. Let's see if he can find a land to play on his turn 2 so we can start deploying some 2-drops. Gonna upkeep Play with Fire again, using the Scribe here, and almost like a desperation attempt in finally finds a mountain.
Okay, I see a Roiling Vortex in hand for Evan as well. That's a Light of the Sage trying to find a 3rd land and doesn't.
Well, if he finds a 3rd land naturally, he can go the Vaishnav Pyromancer into Wizard's Lightning on his own turn.
Yeah, but you'd want to save that Wizard's Lightning for a Mayhem Devil.
Wait, it's an exile. What do you gotta play it?
Oh, no land, so this could be Gitu Lava Runner Wizard's Lightning, or it could just be Viashino Pyromancer.
Kind of just like going Viashino Pyromancer. I feel like Milliken's deck after board is just going to be tons of removal, and what you want to do is just put threats down as much as you can. He's going to go for burst damage to face, though, attacking for 2 with the Lava Runner, and then a Wizard's Lightning at face. And Milliken has no responses, so you got to say if you're Evan, you're feeling pretty good about that.
I actually like Evan's play there. I think the Viashino Pyromancer is never going to deal more than 2 damage, and the Wizard's Lightning will deal 3, and it's because of the Unlucky Witness on the other side of the battlefield. Sure. You're either going to have to aim a burn spell at it, or you're going to trade.
Fair enough. All right, so here's Lava Runner is going to attack for 1. It got shrunk when it got sent to the other side. The Claim the Firstborn with the Witch's Oven is going to take it down, and we're back Evan's way.
And that claim not only trades for the lava runner, it trades for the light of the stage, because the light of the stage only became a wizard's lightning, and the food is going to give you the 3 life back.
All right, here's Monastery Swift Spear, and then an attack with the Kamano with the buff, and we're going to sack the Hunted Witness after block, or Unlucky Witness after block, and get our choice to the top 2, which is another Witness or a Castle Lockthwain. It looks like we have plenty of lands.
This looks like a Mayhem Devil in hand for Milliken, but only has 1 sacrifice after it, so can't take out that Monastery Swift Spear. Could be a little hasty on that Mayhem Devil if Evan Smith is able to remove it without losing any creatures to it.
All right, chapter 2. Now, important to note, Evan Smith did bring in Rolling Vortex. That one is a way to prevent your opponent from gaining life, but it costs red mana every time to prevent the life gain. That is not where you want to be against the Cat Oven combo. So maybe you could learn from Evan's mistakes here. If you're a fan of the Mono Red Wizard deck, don't be bringing in Rolling Vortex against Cat Oven. It doesn't do anything.
Yeah, it can stop some food sacrifices too, though. That's a little bit better. And maybe that's, something that you really need, because otherwise food almost becomes like a clue token.
All right, well, we have a block from the Witness, but not a sacrifice of the Oven. Interesting. Maybe trying to I don't really understand. Doesn't make much sense.
Maybe trying to prevent Evan from playing a 1 toughness creature, but he's got the Kumano, so that's not going to happen.
Right, but you're not going to sack the Mayhem Devil end of turn to kill the 1 toughness creature, right?
Yeah.
All right, here's a cat here with Oven and Mayhem Devil. This is going to chew up Evan's side of the battlefield with no answer for that Mayhem Devil. He's in a tight spot. Looks like his hand has Goblin Chain Whirler, Bone Crusher Giant, and Hazoret as the top end spells.
You brought in a lot of expensive cards and you kept another 1-lander.
Yeah, tough stuff. But we're doing some Mayhem Devil tricks here. See if we can chop down the Soulscar Mage.
This is a dangerous play because you only have 3 sacrifices. 2 from the Cat Oven loop, and then sacrifice the food that you have naturally to gain 3 life. Oh no, we've got a Deadly Dispute. Now we can sack the food, and if Evan Smith has a 1-mana spell to pump, we have a treasure that we can sacrifice.
Ooh, well, we had a food, right? So I would have liked to actually sack the cat, draw 2, have the treasure, and then bring the cat back to kill the Soulscar Mage.
Yeah.
Okay. Looks like we have a Claim the Firstborn, but maybe no sacrifice outlet. Have Dreadbore and a couple lands. Maybe land Dreadbore is the play here.
Yeah. We could have effectively just gotten 1 more sacrifice if we sack the cat instead of the food to the Deadly Dispute.
All right. Dreadbore down the Monastery Swift Spear, and Milliken has essentially eliminated all of Evan Smith's pressure.
Still doesn't want to get too aggressive with the Mayhem Devil, though.
All right, so flip of the Kumano, and we have a 3rd land rolled up. Do you attack first? I like attacking first because if the Mayhem Devil blocks, you have a Chain Whirler, right? So if you get to exile the cat.
Yeah.
Maybe you just missed the exile effect from the Kumano. I feel like maybe playing Chain Whirler before attacks is best, right? You exile the cat, put a damage on the Mayhem Devil, and then you can attack with the Kumano and offer a trade.
Yeah, and you would take that trade every day of the week.
Yeah. Okay.
Misstep there from Evan Smith. Losing the cat would have been a big deal. Milliken doesn't have a lot else going on.
Okay, here's a Claim the Firstborn. It's going to take the Kumano, and now we get to smash in 3, 4, 5, 6. Evan down to 10. Maybe this is an unwinnable nightmare matchup.
At this point, Milliken uses the Oven main phase again because of the claim. You have another window if you're Evan Smith to Chain Whirl down the cat, but now you've lost the Kumano. So yeah, not nearly as effective there.
All right, finds Mountain number 4, can play it and then play Hazoret and attack for 5, but just dead on board to what's in play from Joshua Milliken. So I believe Evan Smith is dead. He's dead.
Yeah, if we tap out for Hazoret, then Milliken can untap, activate Den of the Bugbear, loop the Cauldron Familiar, but when you bring it back, you can hold priority and sack the 2nd food. So you get essentially 3 sacrifices out of the loop instead of 2. That's 3 damage plus 1 from the Familiar trigger, puts Evan Smith to 4. The Goblin token plus either the unblocked Mayhem Devil or the unblocked Den will deal the last 4 points.
Yeah, this will be enough, I think, here for Milliken to take it down. we're going to attack for 5 here. This is essentially just waving the white flag, and we're going to gain some life here, deal damage. The Roiling Vortex also going to do some pinging here. And all she wrote, Den of the Bugbear coming in with the Knuckleheads, and that should be good enough. Seems like we have our first semifinalist here. Joshua Milliken with Rakdos Sack putting on a clinic against the Mono Red Wizard deck, and a couple bad keeps from Evan and a little bit of a stumble, and it's 2-0. Joshua Milliken takes it down.
Yeah, not much to say about that matchup. You miss your second land drop a bunch. It's hard to win.